Mic'd up.
Welcome everybody to Hall of Fame Conversations on Mic'd Up, presented by Zenni. Eyewear for everyone. High quality glasses at affordable prices. Visit zennioptical.com. My name is John Reger, PJ member and broadcaster, joined by Barry Smith, Florida Sports Hall of Fame class of 22, and legendary college football star and NFL wide receiver. Hall of Fame Conversations is a casual, interesting, and fun chat with folks from the world of sports, both current and future Hall of Famers. Our conversation today is with someone who has become an icon at the Tampa Bay Buccaneer NFL home games for many, many years. His alter ego is named the Big Nasty, and he's enshrined at Canton, Ohio at the Pro Football Hall of Fame Hall of Fans. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Keith Kunzig.
Hey, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me on today.
Good to have you.
Fantastic. Now, for our listeners out there, you know, when you saw the all this social media advertising and the thumbnail we used for it, you know, Keith was in full regalia when I put that picture up there. Hey, but Keith's retired from this now. But Keith, we're going to rely on you today to during the broadcast sometimes to show us a picture of what you look like when you were in your full regalia as the Big Nasty.
Oh, there's plenty of it in the sports room here. So, I mean, when we get done right at the end, I could probably do a nice little walkabout so you could see all the what I call the awesome memories over 35 years of being Big Nasty and bringing smiles to all the fans in Tampa Stadium as well as Raymond James.
Well, that's just fantastic. Say, Barry, why don't you lead us off with the first question for Keith?
Well, honestly, it may not be a real exciting one, but you know what? I'd like to know a little bit about Keith. I mean, obviously, I've known you from afar for a number of years because of the Big Nasty, and you actually sat next to, or one of my former teammates, Chris Griffin, sat next to you for a number of years. So I've seen, you know, pictures and all that. And then several years ago, you and I met, started a dialogue on something, but I don't think that I know kind of like, hey, where are you from? Where did you grow up? You know, what's your sports background before you became the Big Nasty?
Wow, that's so cool. It's funny now. I never thought I'd be talking about the history of Keith Kunzig and Big Nasty, but when you get in the Hall of Fame twice, it's pretty awesome, and people want to know. It's like before, back in the day, nobody knew who Keith Kunzig was. Nobody knew what it was. Almost like the Superman Clark Kent, right? Nobody knew the different persona. And I remember, you know, after 35 years of showing the love and passion for your team and just always being positive, even with the 0-26 start. You know, I've been here since day one as a child. So, and I don't plan on going anywhere till the day I die. You know, everybody says pewter and red till I'm dead. I'm more like I'm orange creamsicle till I'm
There
dead.
we go. There we go.
So,
love the creamsicle.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, we don't use as much as our history as we should. And I'll tell you what, it's those guys that, like yourselves, Barry, that paved the way for Tampa to be in its greatness of winning 2 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as Big Nasty and Keith Kunzig, I started my love, believe it or not. I'm a kid from New Jersey. We moved down here when I was 8 years old. My dad got me into Little League football, and I'll be honest with you, I was the fat little kid, right? Hated to run. Couldn't stand, you know, I could run sprints, you know, like I was good at that. Or if I had to go tackle somebody, I was really good at that. But man, when I had to go do a lap, oh my God, I'd be crying, wheezing. It was horrible, right? Dead last. Picture the fat kid last in every run. That was me back then. But, you know, one of the things that I can honestly say, even as a kid and through my father coaching me at Seminole Junior Warhawks down here in Seminole, they don't even have it there anymore. But I could tell you, it was more like my dad always taught me how to work hard, right? You may not be the most talented, but if you work hard and you out hustle everybody, you know, the cream will rise. And to this day, all the paths that I could say I've taken with football in general, and then the Buccaneers. I mean, the Buccaneers have been in my life all my life. since I've been 8, guys. So I understand losing. I definitely understand the word loyalty. Even when we were 0-26, guess what? I was still watching it with the antenna. You know what I mean? Because there was
Love it.
only 3 channels back then, right?
Yeah.
And I could tell you, I remember my mom yelling at me and inside, turn the antenna from outside to get the games in better, you know? And but I'll tell you what, she was a huge Bucks fan. My dad was always the one that would like to razz you, right? So whoever we were playing, he would root for him just to get under my skin, right? And get that aggression out of me, right? Typical dad, right? So I can remember back then, just watching the games and growing up, you know, believe it or not, I still remember Steve Spurrier, you know, and but the ones that were great because he started winning were like the Leroy Selmans, the Doug Williams, um, the Jimmy Giles. I still
Yep.
blows my mind every time I see him every Sunday, and they know who I am. That just makes me laugh. I'm like, you guys are the icons. I was just a clown that made everybody's game day experience memorable. That's all I did. And I still try to do it, just not with the makeup on. But I will tell you, my all time favorite Buck, Barry, I don't know if you know this, is Mark Cotney, Captain Crunch.
Love Mark. Yeah, he was a
Uh,
baller. He was a baller.
I'm going to tell you something personal. Um, next year's the 50th anniversary, right?
Yes. Well aware of that.
And
Looking forward to it.
yeah, me too. We neither one of us can get into a lot of detail about it, but I'm
Right.
really excited to see how that comes out. But I could tell you, I just saw Mark last season, probably after 10 years, but I've seen him numerous times. But where Mark has touched my heart, and where I honestly think the Mark Cotneys, the Doug Williams, the Leroy Selmans, they're the ones that made Big Nasty. Period. Because I fell in love with those guys. Because then, you really seriously had role models. Now, athletes are a little different. Some of them are role models, some don't care.
Right.
I can tell you one thing about the Buccaneers, they did care. And I remember going to a football camp, Florida professional football camp. And I think it was somewhere in Orlando somewhere. It was one of those overnights, and I've never been away from my mom and dad ever. And my mom and dad were blue collar, so they had to earn every bit of that money to go. And those things weren't cheap back then. I think it was like $400 to go to one of those camps. Right? That's a lot of money back then.
Yep.
And my mom and dad scrimped, and we ended up going. It was me, my brother, one of my best friends, and I'll never. Now remember this. I told you I was a fat, chubby guy, right? But I love the game of football. Didn't like to run laps, but I love to play the game of football. And I remember I got all excited. I was like, yeah, I'm going to the defensive line, right? Because I'm a big guy, right? I go to defensive line. It was a high school coach. I can't remember his name. And he turned me down. He said, kid, you're too small. You need to go to linebackers. Literally. Now, picture this. This is an 8-year-old kid that's been away from home for the first time in his life. Okay. And my brother's over there with wide receivers with my best friend, and I'm over here with the chubby heavyset kid. So anyway, the guy turns me to linebackers. Guess who I see? Scott Brantley.
Oh
And
yeah.
Scott goes, and just he wasn't mean to me. And neither was the lineman coach. I was just terrified, to be honest with you. And Scott goes, kid, you're too big to be a linebacker. Now, now I'm going, okay, I'm too small to be a defensive lineman. I'm too big to be a linebacker. And now I'll be honest with you, I'm in tears. I'm
Yep.
literally got the huffing and puffing going on. Like,
Right.
what am I going to do now? So guess who comes over to me? Bart Cotney puts his
Ah.
arm around me. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, he's something special to me.
Yep.
And he goes, "Hey kid, what's wrong?" I said, and I told him just what I told you guys, but I'm sure it was all broken up by crying. And he goes, "You come with me." So here I go the entire camp, and I'm being a defensive back, and he was coaching defensive backs.
I
I
love it.
learned how to backpedal. I learned good footwork. But can you imagine a fat kid that hates to run, backpedaling? You know how many times I fell on my can?
Oh.
I could tell you, it must have been 50 times in that camp. I'm telling you. And I was so, but I got up. I kept working. And the neatest thing is at the end of that camp, I ended up getting the most improved award in that camp, which I still have to this day. And it's
Love it.
my most valuable memorabilia. It's like a little small trophy. I got it over there. I'll have to show it to you afterwards. But I mean, literally, it's not the size of, you know, probably 2.5 inches, a little football, most improved. And he signed an autograph for me that I still have today. It says, "To Keith, keep working," and Mark Cotney. And if you talk about work ethic, what do you think that did for an 8-year-old kid that was shy, that may not had the best gifts of athletic ability at the time, and what that did for me and my confidence? And I still share that with him and every day, and I shared it with the 50 years too. So he is very
Yeah.
special in my heart because he took the time. So it's all of you athletes, Barry, like yourself. How many times did you touch a child's heart that you may not even know, right? And then later
Right.
on down the road, you go, "Oh my goodness, that's amazing," and it makes you feel like $1 million. Um, I could tell you, I personally have that experience because you fast forward from that to Big Nasty. What do you do with Big Nasty? Okay, you're getting inducted in the Hall of Fame back in 2001 for the first time, right? No, but the Bucks didn't even know what the hell was going on then, right? I think it was Reggie Roberts was the uh, communication director, through sources like that. And
Right.
my wife ended up calling up and said, "Hey, he's in the Hall of Fame representing you guys." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And then Channel 44, remember Channel 44?
Sure do.
Um, they did my first interview, and then it just started. People started noticing, right? The Bucks don't touch you at the beginning. Obviously, you got to show that you're a good person. They don't want some drunk idiot, at a
Yep.
game. They want somebody that's going to be presentable. So I always just went into it as, okay, everybody loves a clown, right? I love to make people laugh. I love to get everybody up on third down screaming their lungs out. Where do we go from this? And it evolved over the years. I mean, it wasn't with like you always said, you wanted to see the rhino hat. This wasn't it at the very beginning. It wasn't a rhino hat. Rhino hat didn't come until Mike Allstott and Lorenzo Neal were in town. It was like a ball cap and orange paint that stained your face back then.
Oh
So,
Lord.
but yeah, I've had a real good time with it. I created two new things. I shouldn't say new things after 35 years of it. Um, started Drugs Are Nasty program where we started going to local schools and talking about drug prevention. And I'm very proud of that. I don't do it as like I used to because obviously the face paint does a serious momentum boost for alumni,
Yeah.
especially in the school system. And I wish we had more drug prevention programs in Pinellas County, Manatee County, and Hillsborough County as well. We used to have it back in the day, but I think we need to bring that back. But yeah, it was really neat. The basics: say no, walk away, tell somebody. Now you're probably thinking, every kid's going to get that. But when you talk about storytelling and you put a powerful story behind it, it evolved into 35 years. I mean, we even took it nationwide. And I started teaming up with other super fans across the country that were Hall of Famers, like Game Time from the Saints, Ultimate from the Houston Texans, Philadelphia, Sean Young from the Philadelphia Eagles. Believe it or not, I can't believe I did something with the Philadelphia Eagles,
Yeah.
but we did anyway. And we went to we had a drug testing company that sponsored it. Because let's face it, at that time we couldn't afford to travel, and he got behind it. We ended up doing schools in Philly. We did schools in New Orleans. We did schools in Houston, and I just brought the nasty um, drugs are nasty program to those cities, and I wanted the guys to run with it. I said, "I'll teach you it. You can be part of it, and I don't expect nothing. If we could stop one child from making a mistake and even attempting to do drugs, then it's a win, right?"
Yes.
So, and I remember it. it started out doing PE classes, right? And I would take my vacation for the full week and do it in PE because if you're doing PE classes, you're there the whole day. And then
Wow.
it evolved into doing auditoriums where, you know, you got a packed gymnasium, or what do they call it now? A multi-purpose room, right?
Yeah.
Where you have the whole school in there at one shot. So this way you could do multiple schools in a day. We really took it to Pinellas County, Starkey Elementary and Seminole was the first school. We've done Hillsboro. We've done Manatee County. Boy, they really jumped on it with all the SROs um, from the sheriff's departments. Boy, once they heard the program, I literally had to do it in front of all those guys. And they lined up, how do we book it? And we just said, okay, this is going to be my vacation week. We ended up doing like 30 schools in a week. It was amazing. It really was. Um,
Beautiful.
and, you know, it's the ways you give back. I think that's what, you know, anybody can get in the Hall of Fame as a fan. It's what you do with it, right? What do you do with that 15 minutes worth of fame? You do something good with it, you know? And obviously, Barry, you in the Florida Hall of Fame, you did good things, right? And you're still doing great things. That's pretty amazing to me because it doesn't stop when the face paint comes off. If anything, you have to keep on pushing.
Amen.
You know what I'm getting at? Pushing forward to do good for others. And I don't care if it's walking an old lady across the street or, you know, making a donation to somebody that needs it. You know, just doing something good because this world needs a lot more good.
Fantastic.
Hey, I got to commend Barry Smith. He asked a question and he got a 15-minute answer out of you. That's
But I'm sorry, you
fantastic,
got me
That's
Barry.
pretty
rambling.
good.
See?
That's pretty good.
And you know
Yeah.
what? That's absolutely gold. I've just been enthralled by this whole conversation so far.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Keith, how did you come up with the name the Big Nasty? And how has you just mentioned briefly you're holding a helmet up and showing horns on it and different things like that, different eras over 35 years. How did this all evolve? How did you come up with the name and how did it evolve in such elaborate costuming and character and becoming an alter ego?
Well, it's funny how you say that. It's like, how did it begin, right? I hear this all the time. How did it start, right? Number one, you know, nickname, guys. A true nickname is given. It ain't made up for yourself, right? So I can remember we used to paint our face. The rhino hat was nowhere near, you know, in play at the time. We had ball caps, and like I said, painted our face. Me and my brother, he broke up with his girlfriend. I said, "Hey, man, let's go to the game." I said, "But let's paint our face." And it was a Packer game, believe it or not.
Go
So
Pack.
the
Go.
Battle of the Pigs, the Battle of the Pigs, two worst
Yep.
teams in the NFL.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I remember going and, you know, we would only do it for that game, believe it or not, right? Throughout the years. And then we started doing it every game. And there was an old lady up in the old sombrero, about 60 something rows up or dead line, 50-yard line. And she goes, nasty. She goes, you need a nickname, son, something big and something nasty. And that's
Uh-huh.
how it started. And it was
Something
funny. I
nasty.
wish
I
I knew
love it.
that lady's name to this day. I'm sure she's gone to heaven by now. I mean, that's a long time ago. But I could tell you, I owe that lady a lot of thanks. Who would ever believe that would evolve into something so good? You know, with because you know they always say don't judge a book by its cover, right? Well, there's a perfect example. It shouldn't be big nasty. It should be big nice guy, right? But and then moving forward, we got in the hall in 2001. You know, you're doing it every game, right? You can't just do it for the Packer game. And we were in the old Norris division, which was a blast. I still miss playing in that division. I really do. Um, and obviously now we play in the South. But I will tell you this: getting into the hall changed everything. I met three super fans, which I call legends. They're really the icons. People will say, "Okay, you're an icon." I think everybody leads the way. You just got to find that path that was good for each and every one of you. My three legends were Boss Hoggett from the Washington Redskins. If you know what I'm talking about there, they're the guys that dressed in dresses, hog snouts.
Yep.
and there were 17 of them. They're retired too. They retired several years back. But what's really funny is those are a lot of guys are retired colonels. That's not a joke. And oh yeah, it's pretty neat. And my boss Hoggett, which is Mikey Torbear, he's a retired nuclear engineerist, believe it or not. So who would believe it? Here I'm a financial advisory practice. He's a nuclear engineerist. I can remember one of the TV programs we did up in New York together, and that's how we all found out what the hell we all did. And everybody was like laughing at us, like, no way, you know. But Boss Hoggett taught me the charity part of it. He goes, "Hey kid, you're in the Hall of Fame now. You got to do something with it." I'm like, "What the hell am I going to do? I don't know anything to do. What do you mean charity? I ain't got no money. What are you doing?" It was bad enough just to pay the season tickets to go to the games. And he said, "No, you need to do something like we've done." I go, "What is that?" He goes, "Do a hog at for a day." And they even have a section in the area called the Hog Pen where they invited, they went to the local charities, they bid their game day experience for whatever charity that was, right? And I said, "Well, do you really think somebody would do that with Big Nasty?" And boy, I remember we did Children's Dream Fund for the first time, and it just took off. Then everybody got word. You know how the word goes into the charities. Everybody started because it's the experiences that raise the most money, right? Not so much a ball or a trophy. It's the game day experience. So yeah, after 35 years of doing that, we did every single game. We had a charity. And I remember it went from calling people, say, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" to I would get emails, like 50 emails, "Hey, our request for doing Nasty for a day." So those are the two programs that I created was the Drugs Are Nasty program and Nasty for a Day for the charitable side. And all proceeds went to the charity, every bit of it. There was nothing that saved back on me because I had 4 tickets. So there was 2 tickets for us, and then there was 2 tickets for the charity that we donated. And then over the years, we moved around, and now we're front row, etc. But yeah, it was a neat way to get out there and being a financial advisor, right? As a business point of it, not even thinking of it, but it just walked into that. You have a person that's spending lucrative income. We're talking, I think the largest Nasty for a day, and this was just going to a game and a tailgate with me, went for like 7 grand, over the years.
Excellent.
I remember it was for the Angelus. Drew Garabo was him and Charlie Belcher. And I couldn't believe it. I go, they do know what they're bidding on, right? I got a little nervous. That was Charlie Daniels. Remember Charlie Daniels
Oh
Palooza?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
Yep.
what the Angelus was all about. And just great memories. And we did that every single year with the Angelus, even after Charlie passed away. Um, and then it obviously dissolved and they didn't have the Palooza anymore. They tried to do it with, other artists. But those two programs, I was just lucky. And I learned, from Boss Hoggett. I also learned my next one was the business side of it. Who would ever believe there would be a business side of it, right? And that comes to where marketing and advertisers reach out to you. That doesn't happen when you first start, obviously. That happens, probably 25 years in. Um, and then you start getting marketing firms that want to do stuff with you and etc. But, he taught me the business side of it. He goes, "Hey, how much does your makeup cost?" I'm like, "Yeah, it costs me $25 every time I put a face on." Right? He goes, "How much does it cost you to get tickets? How much does it cost?" And it made me think, okay, there is a business side. And we've done some neat things over the years. And I try to teach, the super fans that I see that are starting to come up and rise. And I try to teach them the business side of it as well. Um, because if you keep doing your time for free, you better be doing it for charity, right? That's a given. But when it comes to the business side where somebody's trying to sell your persona to sell a product or whatever. That's another, right? And then you know, the, geez, I look back. Do you remember Barrel Man from Denver Broncos?
Oh yeah, yes I do.
Yeah.
Yes
So
I do.
Big Dog was the heavy set guy from Cleveland. What people don't understand about Big Dog is the one that kept the Cleveland Browns name in Cleveland. I don't know if you knew that. He
Oh,
actually changed himself to the
Uh,
stadium.
huh.
And yeah, it was a big deal. And because, Modell wanted to take the Cleveland Browns all. That's why they had to change to the Ravens. Right.
right, right,
Um,
Yeah.
and then Barrow Man, he just taught me the family side of it. He goes, hey, you're going to get an ego just like everybody else. And he's right. You better keep that in check. But you better never forget your family. And that's the big thing. What kept Big Nasty going? It's my family. My wife, the I can't believe what my wife has seen. That's really should be a book one day. It really should.
Well, yeah. Hey,
And
Keith, you should write a book because you got like 7 chapters already from what I've just listened to.
oh
oh,
absolutely.
this is nothing. Are you kidding? If I told you some of the stories, the funny stories, oh man. And I guess, yeah, maybe one day if somebody came to me, we would do something like that. But yeah, I could see it. I don't think it'd be a bestseller, but it'd be probably fun to do one day. Um, at least have something chronicled what you've done in your life, right? But I will tell you
Well,
this.
yeah, and you want to chronicle it before all your friends tell the stories at your funeral, of the real
Yeah,
stories. So you want to go ahead and get it in writing first before they do.
yeah, I tell you, you know what it is? I look back at the 35 years, guys, and Barry, you probably could say this too, right? You know, it's the memories that you had, whether it was in the locker room or whether it was game day experiences
Right.
or people that you've touched along the way, right? Um, wow, it's like 2020. Was it 2020? God, I don't even remember anymore. 2022 was my last year, right? And it just came up on Facebook, um, a video that the Leatherhead Tailgate put up, and I was like in shock when they played it that last game because there was guys like Chris Hovan, Booger McFarland,
Yeah.
Jermaine Phillips, Matt Bryant, just guys that got on there that played the game. I mean, these guys are the real heroes, right? But how they're talking about me in this video. And I'll be honest with you, that's the first time I saw it just the other day because you don't see half the stuff, because at the tailgate, you didn't hear everything, right? But watching it, somebody posted it on YouTube and I watched it and it got me choked up a little bit, and hearing Chris Hovan, some of the things, funny story about Chris, he used to play for the Vikings, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you remember how he used to do the black like Randall, right?
Yeah.
And he wore 99 for the Minnesota Vikings. And every time, we're in the Norvis, so we're fighting each other, and I'm a blabbermouth. I'll get in your head if I can, right? And I'm like 99, get that jersey off. You don't deserve that. Wear that jersey, because I'm talking about my boy Sap. And I go get that, and I'm just razzing him. I swear to God, I thought he was going to come up in the stands and break my neck. And then you fast forward, here he is 95 for the Bucks later on down the road. We end up becoming great friends. He goes, let me tell you something. You know how many times I wanted to come up there and kick your ass,
Love
you know, and because you were getting, and I think that's what fans should do. As long as you don't go over the edge, right? You don't become insulting, but you have fun with it, right? And but yeah, we used to have a lot of fun. Yeah, that video really got me. It just came out like a couple days ago, and I watched it. I was like, from start to finish, and even seeing other fans that you might have, I don't know, been instrumental, to become a fan or whatever. But I always just try to tell everybody, be loyal to your team no matter what, because you're not always going to win, period. And the second thing is, be positive about it. You don't want to be that negative nanny. That ain't going to help anybody out. I always looked at it, Barry, you're part of that 0 and 26, right?
Yes, I am. I'm only responsible for the first 14.
Well,
So
here's my point. Here's my
yeah, so
point.
you can't
When
hang.
you went out there, you balled out the best you could,
Yes,
period.
absolutely.
And I believe that's one thing that I've always loved the Bucks is they always balled out. And I could never boo my team. I could never boo a man's effort of giving 120% every single snap, even though you didn't win.
Right.
I mean, obviously you want to win, you want to be part of a winning team, but
Yep.
it's the effort and the keep working and the hard work that puts in that makes you a champion, right? So I look at the guys that laid the path. I got more respect for than the ones that just came in as a free agent for a year and won a Super Bowl. Okay,
Got it.
so that's just my thought process. I know not every fan sees it that way. I get it. But that's just the way I am. And I think that's just the way my journey as a fan and being a Buck fan and how the Bucks have touched my life. I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, I remember when we went to Tony Dungy, right? And you were talking
Good,
about the Rhino offense.
good man. Good man.
And he came. Oh, great humanitarian man. I mean, that guy don't have to do another thing. He's in heaven for life, man. Period. He's got it. But I could tell you, he invited me to a practice. Now, this is way before the Taj Mahal that we have now. All right, this was it literally Warren Sapp used to call it the rat trap because it was there was no joke. They had universal weight equipment. It was
Yeah.
nothing out back. And
Right.
I remember when it rained, they went to the garage next door to practice when it got typhooning. And there was only like, I'd say 10-foot worth of stands for visitor practices. And we ended up going to that practice, and he came over. I still have a picture of him and my brother and myself and my wife when we attended. And I was just that's all I cared about. We were the only three in the freaking stands back then, guys. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And then how did the Rhino hat start, right? Everything evolves. How did the face paint go from orange paint to looking like Kiss and Gene Simmons, for God's sakes? It's over the years, right? But the Rhino hat, which I'm very proud of, this is the original. Believe it or not, you'll see a Stars
Right.
of Strength that I have over there. But you'll see this, and you'll see it has only 2 autographs on it. And obviously, a Rhino offense was nicknamed probably for a month, 1 year only. And it was Mike Allstott and Lorenzo Neal. And Lorenzo Neal was our fullback, even though Mike was our fullback, but I call Mike a running back. Um, but I could tell you, Lorenzo Neal could lay the wood. Whew. There, he would open up holes left and right. And I loved it, the Rhino offense. Do you know how many people that still to this day don't know where this even came in? Right. And I remember seeing Mike for the first time, and he was a baby. And I said, "This is for you." He goes, "Huh?" I go, "Yeah, you're the Rhino offense." And it just took off from there. And I've never changed it, even when Mike retired and Lorenzo retired. But yeah, the Rhino offense was another thing. What did that stand for? We weren't the most talented team, but boy, we could bruise you. We would out hustle
Yep.
you. We would
Yep.
hard work you, right? There it is again.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm really pretty proud of that. And then you talk about how the Big Nasty and then my brother Little Nasty and the Nasty Crew. It just evolved over the years, and face paint. If you notice, it went from orange stained. I'll never forget the first time I did that. It stained my face for a week. That's don't ever
Nice.
use that stuff that comes out of a tube, brother. I'm telling you right. And that was before they had the spray on tan. You know what I mean? It looked like a bad spray on tan. That's how bad it looked. And it did not come off. And I scrubbed it. I was like, oh, but
Hey,
yeah, it
I
was
got to
a fun
ask,
day.
how did your clients uh, respond to that red face?
Well, back then I was still in the health club industry at the very beginning. I figured 35 years, right?
All right.
And it wasn't so much of a big thing. And then you fast forward to the Hall of Fame and then getting a bobblehead. Then I was in the industry, financial industry, and everybody was like, let's face it, how many financial advisors look like Big Nasty?
Right.
Not many at all.
No.
And but you know what I used to do? They made this bobblehead of Big Nasty, right? And I remember them coming up, and they must have made like 2,500. That was it. So it's definitely a good collector's item if you catch one, but you ain't gonna find one. They're hard. I
Yeah.
remember we sold them for like $10 for charity, at these local events that we made appearances at, and all the proceeds went to whatever charity it was. And but I would actually buy a few of those and give them to my new clients and say, "Hey, are you a Bucks fan? Not really, but this is you're going to want to keep." And they go, "Why?" Because that's me. And it
Yeah.
broke the ice. I don't need somebody to go, "Hey, I got my 5 million with you. I'm working with a clown." Um, you
Right.
know what I mean, right? And but I will tell you this. Um, I could tell you this. I look back and I was pretty sharp. I was always a quick-witted individual. I'm never, I'm always off the cuff, right? I do better than that than preparing. But I will tell you, I came up with I was with Morgan Stanley when I first started, and we were trying to get it passed, but they couldn't get it over. Because when you go through licensing, it has to be worldwide.
Right.
Um, and Anyway, make a long story short, I put in there. I said, you know, I have fun with them on the best, and I can clown it up with the best of them on Buccaneer Sunday. But when it comes to your investments, it's all business, right? And I had
That's
a
true.
picture of me as a financial advisor, my suit, and then a picture of Big Nasty like Happy. And it was the marketing group for Morgan Stanley thought it was phenomenal, but they could never get it approved. But yeah, that's how I started. Then the bobblehead stuff, I just stopped. There, actually, everybody knew who the hell I was because remember, again, back then I was painted up. Nobody knew what I looked like out of
Right.
makeup, right? And then after doing so many TV over the years and shows, oh man, it's hard to believe the fun I've had over the years and looking back and going, wow, I mean, wow, I did that. It's kind of like every time I see something, it's like a refresher. Like, wow, I did do that, Um, or I can remember doing the best damn sports show, period. That was when Chris Rose was the anchor. Remember Tom Arnold?
Yeah.
Tom Arnold was on that show. They actually had
Oh yeah.
Kellen Winslow Sr. was on that show. And yeah, I actually was on there with Boss Hoggett. We had fun doing that, and we did a tug of war for a jersey, which I still have. It's at my office to this day. And then I had everybody sign it that was on the show. But it's funny how that evolved. And shoot, we were on. This is when we went to LA, obviously, for all these shoots. We did NFL Fox. We did, which was really impressive. That studio back then was really cool. But we also did God, what's his name? I'm going blank. Not Leno. Dang, Jimmy Kimmel back in the
Right.
day, and he had a cousin or something like that that did the picks, and we were on that show, and just had a lot of fun over the years. And I mean, I even did a Super Bowl commercial for what was that, like 2 years ago? Rihanna. Let me tell you
Right.
something. You ever get a chance to Google that, you will die laughing. I didn't think I could sing, but I'm pretty damn good. But
Hey,
Right.
yeah,
Keith.
I definitely been blessed.
Hey, Keith. One of the elements of the Mic'd Up podcast here is that our listeners can ask questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push a button, and we are going to play a question from one of our listeners here for you. And just keep in mind, this is a recorded question, so our Mic'd Up app users can actually, with all the different shows that are on Mic'd Up, you can actually ask a question in advance of the show if you like to do it. So I'm going to push the button now. We have a question coming in from Webby. Here we go.
Question for Keith. I see you're a financial advisor in real life. Does that help you on the job when people find out you're big nasty? Or is it a deterrent? Or do you try to keep those two lives separate? Thanks.
Great question. I always look at it this way. I always believe in being an open book, right? Especially when you're starting a new relationship, whether it's a friendly relationship or a business relationship. You want honesty to always be part of it because let's face it, if you don't trust who you're working with, that's not going to work out, right? So I would say that I don't hide it. I'll bring it up and I'll say, "Hey, have you ever?" Because they'll come into my office, they'll see memorabilia everywhere, and they'll go, "Oh, what's this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a big Bucks fan. You ever heard of Big Nasty?" And 50% of the people know, and the other 50 don't. And then you just explain a short little blip about it, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And a matter of fact, I found it be more of a open looking at you like you're normal, right? Believe it or not, a face paint, but a normal of love for a football game that a lot of people love football, whether it's a different team or anything like that. And it just opens dialogue that makes you look human, I guess you could say.
Hey, Keith, you know what we're going to do to wrap up this show? At the beginning of the broadcast, you were talking about you're going to pick up that phone and you're going to walk around and show us some of your memorabilia there.
Okay.
And so
I
this
want
is
to see. I want to see his ring from the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
well,
I got
good.
them on. Hey, I don't got one. I got two, buddy.
Well,
I
hold
don't
them
know if
up
you
close. Hold them up very, very close to the
All right.
the
So to
camera
give you
there.
an
There we
idea,
go. Look
this
at
one
that.
right
There we
here.
go.
Yeah, this one was the Ford Hall of Fans that I got just the last one. And I also have a jacket, but that's hung up. And then the first one, believe it or not, it's the one that's really, really impressive. Not that either one of them are unimpressive, but this one right here is the 2001 one. And that's, I actually upgraded it because they only gave you like $1,000 allowance.
Right.
So I upgraded because I wanted to leave an heirloom for my daughter.
Sure.
So those are the two Hall of Fame rings because obviously being blessed to be inducted twice. That's unheard of, right?
That's
And
cool.
and then obviously I'll show you the plaque and I'll show you, the autograph Mark Cotney and the trophy I was telling you about. But
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's just take a walk around and take a look.
Yeah.
all right, bear
Right.
with me for a second so I take
Well,
this thing off.
everybody's going to have to bear with us because this is a mic'd up podcast. You can take that phone and you can do this podcast from anywhere.
All
I'm
right, I'm
doing
going
it
to
from
turn
my
this.
car because my outdoor studio in St. Augustine right now, it's freezing cold and it might snow, which is very rare for here. So I'm all bundled up in the car doing this podcast. Barry's in nice warm digs down there in
Yes,
Treasure
I am.
Island, St. Petersburg, Florida. There we go, Keith. What do you got there?
That
Nice.
right there is actually in Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is the original, I guess it's a wood carving of the actual plaque in Pro Football Hall of Fame. But they actually have a bronzed one that's in the Hall of Fame that's pretty impressive. Some of the cool things that I've got to do over the years, meeting the great one. The Hall of Fame helmet that when I first got
Oh, look
inducted in
at that.
2001. Yeah,
That's
that was
cool.
really neat.
Yeah.
Some of the things like you'll see some of the different ones, like there's the Hall of Fame, there's the Ford, and there's the Visa, some
Yep.
plaques. Something really cool, just to show you a little bit of history. Obviously, you see Mike, but this right here is when I actually got engaged to my wife at the game. Um, and the funny story about that is I said, Debbie, I love you. Will you marry me? Well, I don't know if a lot of you guys remember, but Warren Sapp's nickname coming out of college was Big Nasty. And all the
Oh
guys on
no.
the so all the guys are like, who the hell's Debbie? To him. So it's kind of like a weird connection, right? And then one of my bucket lists is me and my daughter at the Super Bowl. That was pretty amazing. Unfortunately, we
Oh
had to wear
man.
masks, but it is what it is, right? As you can see, I'm a big Mikey fan.
Yep.
But to give you an idea, this is pretty cool. You talk about me being a fan. That's my daughter when she was younger, first started,
Yep.
right? And now look at her. So it's
Holy
crazy.
smoke.
Yeah. So actually, I
Keith,
call her the bigger Buck fan than me.
hey, Keith. Keith.
Yeah,
Didn't she just get married?
she sure did, man. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. It really was.
Did you?
But
Hey, did you cry?
oh, did I cry? Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Believe it or not, I didn't cry at the church, but I cried during the reveal where you first see her.
Yep.
And I could tell you right now, she was flawless, man. She's just stunning.
Yep.
And but they're very happy. They're on their honeymoon cruise right now. But
Nice.
remember when I was talking to you about Tony Dungy and that day of practice? That's
Yep.
that right there, right?
Yep.
And then when I first met John Gruden, that was pretty cool.
Yep.
Let's see what else. My boy Leroy. God, I miss him.
God
That was a
bless.
great.
Yep.
That's another great humanitarian right there.
Yep. Sure was.
Some of the different things I have. Oh, and my all-time favorite, Mark Cotney. Okay.
Yep.
And there's
Yep.
that little trophy I was telling you about, right? The most improved.
Love it.
Isn't that cool? So
Like
That is
talk to
fantastic.
Mark Cotney.
yeah, I'll tell you what, it's funny. And then I look, a lot of things we have, my wife definitely cleaned up the sports room. I mean, there used to be so much in here, but this was the first time we actually met Warren Sapp, and the press went nuts with it. So it was pretty cool. And then over the years, the hero cards. That's when me and my wife did a commercial for Channel 8. My rookie card. You know, that's another thing. You don't see many of these. If somebody's got the full collection, they are very lucky.
Wow.
So, but the bobblehead. Remember the
That's
bobblehead I
wild.
was telling you about? There's the
Yep.
bobblehead.
Yep.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
But I have so much stuff in here, guys. And be honest with you, it sounds terrible, but it's more like I only do this when I do something like this. I don't really get in here and enjoy it as much as I should, I guess. But there's the one that I retired with. There's my brother. He's up in heaven. And you can see way back when we had the Super Bowl first one. Um, but yeah, we have so much stuff. It's crazy. Like you see some of the super fan bobbleheads, Boss Hoggette, Spike from the Raiders, Catman from Carolina. I mean, I have so much stuff, guys. I mean, it's just
Wow,
Love
crazy.
it.
this is like a little museum tour here. We all being a PJ golf professional and Barry obviously being a Hall of Famer. We have a lot of memorabilia in our man cave and stuff like that. But
Yeah, we do.
I
Yep.
tell you what, that is so cool to see that, because you know what, each one of those pieces in there, it brings back a memory. And you were talking about the memories of doing this and the experiences that you had. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
But the fact that you have this in there, like with my golf ball collection, I've got thousands and thousands of golf balls, and I tell my wife, listen, I got to have these golf balls that brings back a memory when I played this golf course or visited. And
Right.
she goes, yeah, that's right. And I said, well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm not
Yeah.
getting rid of all the golf balls, right?
I love it.
But
I love it.
you just look back at it and you're just like, it's amazing. And believe it or not, I did play football. This is when I was in Little League, right?
Yep.
Little trophies. And then I still have my high school first winning season at Osceola High School. And I was a good looking sucker back then, too. That's when we played for
Yeah.
Osceola Warriors here in
Holy
Seminole.
cow, it almost looks like a leather helmet up there. I know you're not
It
that
does.
old.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah. Let me, I don't know. I probably took enough concussions. I probably was wearing a leather helmet. But yeah, and then the first ever Big Nasty jersey was #1. There's a lot of greats on that one. I mean, Paul Gruber, a lot of the
Yep.
winners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jackie Harris. Remember Jackie Harris?
Yep.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and Manecki,
Oh yeah.
Gooch, even Malcolm
Jason
Glazer signed
Manecki.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will tell you this, probably the coolest thing, that the Bucks have really done for me over the years is obviously accepting me. But this was one of the coolest things on the last game. They presented this game ball to me for the 35 years. It was pretty
Oh,
cool,
that's special.
right?
That's
That's really
sweet.
nice. Yeah,
So we've
that is
had some
sweet.
fun with it. It's all about the love of game, man. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Let me see
Sure
if I
is.
could turn this thing around now. Oh, there it is. All
There you
right.
go. Well,
So
Keith, we're going to wrap this thing up. We really appreciate you being on Hall of Fame Conversations. And for our listeners out there, you've been listening to Hall of Fame Conversations on Mic'd Up, presented by Zenni. Eyewear for everyone, high quality glasses at affordable prices. Visit zennioptical.com. I'm John Reger, PJ member and broadcaster, joined by Barry Smith, Florida Sports Hall of Fame class of 22, and legendary college football star and NFL wide receiver. And what a pleasure it's been today to have Keith, the Big Nasty Kunzig, on our show today on Hall of Fame Conversations. And Keith, any party comments before we log off?
just Bucks for life, baby. God bless. And
Big
let's
time.
have a better season next season.
Well, fantastic. Well, you've listening to Hall of Fame Conversations. We'll see you
Amen.
next time. Thank you for listening.